In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This week on Simulcast 240, we're talking about the latest I screwed that up again. Oh, God. This week on Simulcast 240, we're talking about the latest iPhone 6 rumors, more Moto 360 leaks, big changes are in store at Sprint, and we have listener email. We'll talk about it all right here on the Simulcast. It is Wednesday, August the 6th. I'm Bill Stebbins, and you are listening to Simulcast 240. Third time's a charm because I screwed up the first 2 times I tried to do the intro, but you won't see that if you're listening to the audio podcast. I'm not going to fix it in YouTube, though, Patrick.
That would involve lots of work.
Yeah, I just don't have time for that.
It's an Easter egg.
It's kind of funny. I screwed up last week, too. I'm off my game. I don't know what's going on.
Because you need a Moto 360. That's exactly what your problem is.
I do. God, do I. I've got this new watch face for my Android Wear watch, and it's gorgeous. But it's
That's
still
the
not...
Samsung one, right?
Yeah. So it looks really good, but man, the more I see it, we'll talk about this Moto 360 here in a bit because there were some leaks that kind of corroborate some rumors on that thing. So
and we'll get to that. More.
Yeah, give it to me. So this week, China has banned the use of Apple products for government use. Was it China that was complaining that they wanted the source code so they could make sure they weren't being spied on, or was that Russia?
Probably both. I think China's issues, too, is they want to make sure they can put their own stuff on it to spy on their people.
Oh, of course.
Of course, we can't make too much fun of China because they make half the stuff we use.
Well, right, and really probably the American government's doing the same thing.
Oh,
they're just not telling
anybody. Maybe they are.
Yeah. Wait, you think they're monitoring our podcast right now?
I'm sure. You just got to use the right magic words, and I guarantee you someone gets stuck watching it.
Well, just so you know, people, I have my guard dog here. Don't trip over her.
Well, considering there was an article I saw right before the show, but I didn't put it in here. Apparently, the NSA and them have been, and the FBI have been using malware to get around people using anonymous stuff on the internet to basically backtrack and figure out who you are.
That's kind of scary.
That's kind of Big Brother right there.
Yeah. Wow.
And I mean, if you don't think they can't do it, just see the couple-year-old stories where they used malware to basically override centrifuges in Iran.
Right. That's like just crazy stuff. It's only cool when it's in a spy movie and it's your country that's doing it against somebody else. It's not cool when they're doing it to you.
No.
Samsung and Apple have agreed to drop all their patent lawsuits outside the U.S. Why would they do that?
Well, because they're not. One, Apple was losing most of them, and Apple was winning the one in the U.S. worth millions of dollars. And it's the one market where it actually matters because most people are stupid enough to go into 2-year contracts for their carriers who limit what they have. So it's a bigger game when people are being stuck with, and so they make a bigger importance on the phone that they pick here in the U.S.
Huh.
Plus, Apple has won most of the things here, which surprise, the U.S. company getting the favorite rulings from everybody, including the president.
Yeah, imagine that. Thanks, Obama. Okay, so one of the big things that's been swirling around over the last month or two is iPhone 6 rumors. We've seen every component that you could pretty much imagine for the phone except the actual real-life phone. I know that some people have assembled some dummy stuff, but they're rumored to be announcing the iPhone 6 on September 9th, which is just a little over a month away.
Yeah, and I mean that's a reasonable date considering they usually don't have it available immediately. It's usually a couple weeks afterwards from the iPhone announcements, which would put it a release in about when most people expected, late September, early October.
And shout out to my buddy Jeff. He suggested that Apple was going to be doing an invite system this year. So if you want an iPhone 6, you're going to have to get invited to purchase it. Would that not be hilarious?
That would be awesome.
I would love it because so many people would have to just swallow their pride and beg for an invite. Make it happen, Apple. That would, gosh, can you imagine the black market for iPhones?
Jeez. Although, the way Apple would do it is schedule for a Genius consultation, and we'll get you a free invite.
Yeah.
So that you can get you in the store and try to buy something.
Or free invite with every Mac.
With every Mac Pro purchase.
Oh, guard dog. Oh, no, she's protecting the stairs now. Alrighty then. So what if anything on the iPhone 6 is? I mean, we know that the screen is supposed to be a little bit different.
And then there's been rumors that based on the shape and stuff on the back plate, whether they may actually support NFC and or wireless charging. The wireless charging, I'd love to think it's possible, but the cynic in me says, how can Apple capitalize off this unless they do it their own version of wireless charging, so that they can make sure to make enough money off the chargers and everything.
Yeah, I mean, and that would suck because, you know, Apple, as far as the accessory side of things, carries a whole lot of weight, and that might actually kill their the Qi market, and everybody'd have to switch. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but that would suck.
And because a lot of people are saying if they did go it, they'd probably figure they'd go. What is it? Is it IPA? Is the one it's Duracell with the power mat, or is it IPA? I forget what. It's whatever that one is. It's the one that was the G3 for AT&T. How it used the different wiring standard. That's the standard they think Apple may go with, because they're also partners with a lot of the people for that standard.
Yeah, and that's really stupid. There's no reason they couldn't put both in there.
And unlike most of your lovely Android phones, without a removable battery, you can't add your own.
Yeah. Ugh. There's always a struggle with something.
See, the way I would see Apple adding wireless charging is they would make a customized wireless charging case and sell that as an accessory that they would market and license, because it would have to have a special lightning connector to connect it to the phone. And I could see Johnny Ive developing a wireless charging case so that they can tack on some extra money.
I could see that too. I hope not, though. I mean, I don't know. I could see them doing it, but...
See, I'd like to see them go with Qi, though, because the new Qi standard allows for stuff not to actually be directly on the charging plate.
Well, and I'm excited about something like that, because then I don't have to go through hassle to mount it under my table, like my nightstand.
Yep.
I could just, use some tape to hold it underneath and stick it on there, and you'd never know it was there.
Well, the other thing is, depending how far away from the plate it actually has to be, it would also increase the ability to set up more public charging stations where you just kind of get real close to it, like at the airport or something. You sit at the bar or something. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the exact plate, but you'd have it like up on a tabletop right there. You sit it down while you're drinking. Boom, you get to leave from there. It's charged.
Right. Well, let's hope that happens in some form or fashion and make it... I mean, it's mainstream already in most devices that are not iPhone, but we really need to have that across the board as a standard.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is if Apple got behind it, it'd be over with. It would be here's what's going to happen, and then we'd have a unified standard.
Right.
Although I will say, Apple has been known they don't necessarily skimp when it comes to parts, and Qualcomm has already announced like 6 months ago that they had invented a new chip that would basically allow you to use any wireless charging standard. Basically mimic how they have some of these new antennas, which can be programmed by software.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this one will allow it to recognize either type of any major charging standard, and you'd be able to basically just sit your device on it. It would automatically recognize it and allow it to charge.
That would be sweet.
I could see Apple going with something like, if they decided to go with wireless charging, I could see them doing something like that.
And I guess, the better battery life we get, the less important it is. But it's still, as a matter of convenience, so handy to have that. And I really do hate that my OnePlus One doesn't have that on it. Even though I only plug it in once a day. That's the only time it hits chargers before I go to bed. It would be so nice to just, roll over, drop it on the charger, and not have to try and fumble with a USB cable.
Yeah. And it's one of the things, and the other thing is, the more we incorporate this in there, the more you can design phones to be more water resistant, because that's usually the one thing besides a headphone port that kind of makes a phone vulnerable no matter how well you build it.
Right. Well, hopefully we'll get there. That would be nice. Convenient. Fantastic. Wonderful. Gorgeous. Beautiful.
Make it so.
So in Google News, there was a leaked picture, or several pictures leaked, of the Samsung Galaxy Alpha, which is kind of a premium. I don't know that it's an S5, but it's one of their premium devices.
Is that the metal one?
Yeah, the metal device with LTE advanced and a bunch of other fancy stuff. I think it's got the QHD display.
The one that looked like I could see Apple suing them for stealing their design.
You mean it was inspired? Yeah.
The sides and everything look like. I could see Apple suing over that.
Cool. Well, we'll have to wait and see. It'll probably never make it to the States anyway.
Probably not. It'll probably be something only in foreign markets.
Yep.
Where Apple has given up all lawsuits.
Okay, something really exciting that was leaked. I think it was either yesterday or this morning. I can't remember. The Moto 360. We actually have a look at basically the device with no covers on it, no
stickers,
no, just the device, the charging stand for it, and it looks like, I'm afraid to show my wife because I'm afraid she's not going to want to take this Gear Live from me.
Brianna's suddenly going to go, hey, happy birthday.
Yeah. Like, Brianna will take it. She'd be like, heck yeah, I'll take it. But, Patrick, are you going to have one of these? Yes.
I don't care if I have to take a loan out at the time. I'm getting one of these watches. It's just happening.
I mean, I really like the concept of Android Wear, and quite honestly, I don't mind the Gear Live. It's a fine device. It feels very Samsung-y. But there's something about the Moto 360 that it looks like a finely crafted piece of hardware, and the software looks elegant. It's just got some kind of style to it that the other devices currently don't have.
Well, it looks like something a professional would wear instead of someone wearing a Casio calculator watch, which is exactly what the other ones kind of make me think of, basically updated versions of those. Yeah, you're wanting to see his pocket protector and his slide rule.
Yeah. This Gear Live doesn't really go with my suits. I'd probably still wear it, but no, I have. But yeah, the Moto 360 would fit in a whole lot better.
It has all the things that I liked about the original Gear, but also the design features I always liked about the Martian smartwatch, where it looked more like a watch. Something so, when you use it, people would be like, "Oh, wait a minute, what's that?" But if you're just passing, they're like, oh, nice watch. They don't realize that it doesn't just stand out for the sake of standing out. It blends in and is useful while actually looking like something that you would wear, like when you're dressed in a suit or whatnot.
Yeah, one of the other things that the Moto 360 addresses that really kind of is not a good experience on either of the current Android Wear watches is it has Qi charging. It has a charger that also doubles as like a nightstand for the watch, so you can use it as your night clock or whatever, your clock at night on your nightstand.
Your alarm clock, yeah.
Yeah. What I mean, genius idea. Probably not. Very practical, though.
Yeah, and because it's Qi, you can also, in a pinch, use pretty much any other charger, including the Nexus chargers for the Nexus 4, and then the newer one that came out for the Nexus 5 and the Nexus 7.
Yeah, and it 2.5 day battery. Why not 3 days? I don't know.
Well, I mean, to me though. Even if you only got a day, I could see wanting slightly more than a day, but in theory, any more than that, it's no different than wearing a regular watch that required a traditional watch, which required you to wind it up at least once a day.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, it's kind of 2.5 days doesn't get me any more than 2 days. I mean, it does because it means I can use it a little heavier, but I'm gonna have to charge it at night. It's not something where you're just gonna take it off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take it off during the day and charge it.
Or make it through a weekend camping trip.
Right. So, whatever. I mean, these things are still in their infancy, and I'm sure they'll improve as we go along.
Well, I think the big thing that's going to be nice is because they're using the Qi standard, and if it keeps going with the Qi 2 standard where it doesn't have to directly be on it, we may eventually get to things where you just sit your watch on the watch somewhere on your nightstand or something, and it charges without actually having to be docked or anything. So It's just, essentially you just take your watch off at night because you don't want to wear it when you're sleeping, and it charges.
I've had some issues with mine recently where I've put it on the little cradle thing and it didn't charge.
Huh.
I didn't notice till the next morning when it was giving me a low battery, and I can't pinpoint what it is. The thing was clipped on. I had to unclip it.
I was about to say the Samsung one uses pins, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe you have a dirty pin?
That's the only thing I could think of. And
or one on the charger is bent, maybe.
Could
it's not
be.
making full contact.
Yeah, I need to look at it a little closer under a light. But, I mean, I eventually got it to work, so...
Just go old school Nintendo and break out the rubbing alcohol and blow.
I did blow into it. That may have fixed it. I don't know. But, man, I am buying this watch day one. I'm pretty sure my wife is going to want one of these, not the Gear Live. So, Brianna just may get a Gear Live. Her birthday's coming up. I'll clean it back up for her. That I could do that too.
Although the only thing I'm going to say about the 360 is, let me see if I can get it to work. It doesn't want to work. What the hell?
Shut up and take my money.
Oh, I know why it didn't work. Because I had it plugged into the wrong freaking thing. That would be a user error there.
No.
Shut up and take my money.
There you go. There were some hilarious GIFs posted in some of the Google Plus comments after the Moto 360 was leaked there. You know, people throwing money at the screen. There was one of Barack Obama throwing money at something. It was hilarious.
Oh, I need to find the one. There's a clip. Some gang here in Baton Rouge did a YouTube video, and it shows this guy just sitting down on the ground, and the guy's just like throwing money on him, and somebody made a GIF of it. Like, they're trying to show how much money they're making, and the guy's just like throwing money at the guy as he's sitting there. He's like counting it and then throws it back in the air.
Wow. Yeah, so if Moto can get this thing to market pretty soon, I think they've got a pretty out of the three choices right now, this is the clear winner.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we'll also have a better idea of how much Android Wear is going to really go once this is out. The biggest thing I'm worried about is either them taking too long so people just kind of go, eh. The other thing they run the risk of is they wait too long and Apple comes out with one. People who might have otherwise gotten one might go, oh, well, I'll give Apple a chance, especially if Apple doesn't lock it down to just iOS. And then the other one is they have supply issues, because then people go basically like the OnePlus One. They hate it because they can't have one.
Yeah. And I guess they figure they need to work out some of the stuff and have a really successful launch where there aren't any bugs, and I understand that. But
at this point, just come on.
Yeah. I'm glad I've gotten I've had the Gear Live. I've really gotten attached to Android Wear. When I don't have my watch on, if I'm just hanging around in the house and my phone buzzes, I look at my wrist. I'm like, oh, I don't have my watch on.
I've been really wanting either a Samsung or the LG one, but I'm like, no, I want to wait for the 360.
I mean, if you're only getting one or the other, that's a good idea. I mean, not that this thing's bad, but the Moto 360 is just going to be off the chain.
I can see my thing with the Moto 360 is I can see myself wearing it, working out, as well as going to court with it.
Yep.
And to me, that's the big selling point for me for it.
Even stuff like when I'm driving and I'm listening to music or a podcast on my phone, I don't want to like fumble with my phone or whatever. I can just look down, tap the screen, and hit next or previous and skip tracks and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And you can also reply. Facebook Messenger just updated tonight, so you can reply to chats from there as well. You can do it on Hangouts, SMS, all that, and it's really handy. I mean, all you really got to do is tap the screen, and then you can speak to it. And I don't know what they did with the voice recognition on Android Wear, but it seems to be a step above. Even though Google now on the phone is good, for some reason it seems to be even better on Android Wear.
Does it only use Google now? Because I know, like Samsung, the original Gear, the problem with it is it only used S-Voice.
Yeah, I mean,
whereas some of the other ones basically allowed you to use whatever your default one was on your phone.
For search?
Like for voice command type stuff.
Yeah, it's just using Google stuff, whatever's built into Android Wear.
Mm.
But it works fine.
Because it would have been really cool if they'd have done it as some of the other ones like Martian and them did, where because of the Bluetooth, it just used whatever your phone's thing was. Because that way you could use whatever, which lets you customize if you wanted a digital assistant or if you wanted just Google Now or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I don't have another, a non-stock Android device to test, so I don't. Well, I do, but I'm not gonna hook it up to my wife's phone.
Because then you're never getting it back.
Well, and I don't know if hers is on 4.3 or not, to be honest. It's a Verizon Note 2, so...
Oh, no, probably not.
it may have it. I haven't updated her phone in months. She's due for a new phone, and we'll see. I don't know what to get her.
Should have just kept the Note 3 and she'd have been ecstatic.
Yeah, but I got $600 for it, so...
Well, yeah, I mean, there is that, too.
Yeah. That bought my next two devices without even me selling anything, so...
Too bad it's got to be Verizon. Otherwise, I'd say you could probably pawn off your OnePlus One about when the new Nexus comes out.
Yeah, that's a conundrum for me. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say I'm not going to get the next Nexus, but because I kind of have the best of both worlds right now, I'm not sure that, especially if it's a 6-inch device, I'll probably have to try one. Just to try one.
Of course, see, the thing I want a new Nexus tablet. I'd really love a new Nexus 10, but just something new.
Same here. Especially if they have an LTE version.
Yeah, because I mean, this one it's getting to the point now. It probably needs just a kind of a complete factory refresh.
Yep.
But I don't want to do it because I don't want to re-customize it. So I'm like, if I'm gonna have to do it, I'd rather it be on a new tablet. So at least I have I'm setting up my new tablet to distract you from I'm setting up my tablet.
Yeah, I understand.
especially beautiful widgets. That's a pain in the ass to go back and recustomize. I know I need this default. I want this color scheme. Oh.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I still root is just to have access to all that backup data. It's kind of silly, but because I don't do much else root really. I mean, there's a couple of things like on the OnePlus one I had to flash a file to fix a bug, and it needed root. But for the most part, I don't even use root stuff anymore.
Of course, as excited as I am to have a new Nexus tablet, I think my mom's more excited because she's getting my Nexus.
That's true.
It's like, when's that new one coming out?
Yeah.
Unfortunately for her, the tablet she's using now is that crappy Verizon that came out with Ellipsis.
Oh, yeah.
She won it in a contest, so to her it's awesome because it's free. But
yeah, who was the winner in that?
Someone else, whoever got rid of that Ellipsis. What's bad about it? It won't even let her do updates like to the software unless you put a SIM card in and connect to Verizon.
Huh.
Like it wouldn't even do it over Wi-Fi. So every time I go to her house, I take my SIM out of my phone, pop it in her tablet, and check to see if there's an update.
That sounds like a good plan. So some Android, well, we think it's Android L. Android is supposed to be bringing multi-user support to phones as well, possibly in the next full release.
Yeah, they said their next public release. We don't know if that means the full version of whatever L is, or if that's the next update to L. We don't really know, but it's coming. We have official word from Android people that it's coming.
Interesting.
And before people start saying, well, iOS 8 already announced it, well, guess what? It's been in Android since the tablets.
Right. You know, I only used it to test. I mean, I could kind of see it on a tablet. I don't know about. I mean, the example I saw was that, hey, I've got a spare phone that I sometimes use, and I don't want to wipe it to share with somebody who's going overseas, so I just put another account on there, and they can use it.
Well, the other thing I could see too is if you use it as a shared device for work, and you might want an account specifically so when you're using it for work purposes, none of the other stuff's on it. For like just to customize like your home screen and everything to make sure that you have just work related stuff, and then you switch over to that profile, and so you can have both on there. But when you're on vacation or something, you don't really need to be tethered at the time. Boom, pop into the other one.
Now, I wonder how that would work, because we use Good messaging, and it detects root, so I can't use it on my phone. I wonder if I could have a user account that was not rooted.
That would be an interesting one. You have a Nexus 7, right?
Yeah, but it's on Verizon, and they charge another $20 to connect to Good. So I didn't do it. I was going to, but
so I'll say that would have been a one to test because since the tablet already has the multi-support.
Yep. So I may have to find out if that would work, because that would be kind of cool. Because Good runs in the background, and it has an icon there on the screen. It's just, and you've got to use a PIN code or a password or whatever. It's kind of a pain, like just to have my work, go through all the question. Just get my email.
Will that work over Wi-Fi, or does it have to have cellular data?
It'll work on both.
Well, because I'm saying, could you deactivate the cellular stuff so Verizon would never get involved?
I could, but what I'd have to do then is get a different activation code.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't know how open our IT department is to me getting several activation codes just to be testing. They already know
especially the purpose of what you're testing.
Well, yeah. I mean, they already know I'm kind of a tinkerer, so I don't know. They may be okay with it, but
yeah, I'm about to say that's like our IT department. I'm friends with all of them because half the time they come in and say, "Hey, so what you know about new in tech?" And I can actually speak their lingo, which I think they feel lonely sometimes.
Yeah,
because they speak tech and no one speaks it.
Right. Yeah, our CIO will call me for phone recommendations every once in a while. and he was still using a HTC Evo, the not the
The
old
first one?
but
The 4G LTE.
yeah.
The only one that was probably the best of the 1X line, because it was the Sprint version of the 1X.
Right. But they don't really care. They're just like, hey, whatever.
Sure.
Got an update on the web client for Gmail that made it easier to unsubscribe from mailing lists, and I noticed this morning, and I really like it. Used to be you'd kind of have to hunt through your newsletters and stuff like that you get, so you can unsubscribe. Now if there is a button like that, they move it front and center right at the top.
Right next to the address.
Yep. Because I don't know about you, Patrick, but as a general rule for me, if I get something that I don't really want to read or whatever, and there isn't an easy way to unsubscribe, I just report spam.
That or it gets filtered.
Yeah, because I figure, and there's some that say, one click unsubscribe or whatever, and then you click it, and then they want you to re-enter your email address and all that BS.
Or they take you to like 6 different websites that look questionable and shady.
Yeah. So you know what? Sorry, I'm reporting you as spam. So let Google handle that part of it if you can. That would be the way I would prefer to do it. What is an iGrill device?
You know what an iGrill device is, don't you?
I mean, it has an I in front of it, so I'm going to assume it's for Apple stuff.
Well, you would be wrong now, but it was originally. But the big thing was they were their first big thing that kind of got them claim to fame was was basically a remote thermometer, a meat thermometer. You plug into your stuff in your grill, and it connected over Bluetooth to your iPhone. And they had an app for it so that you can keep monitoring temperature, and it had a timer feature and everything like that. They've since come out with other devices. Well, they've now announced it'll now work on Android. Which my question is the Rapture coming? Because you have something. I mean, they were so gung ho iOS that they even named their device iGrill.
I just can't buy a device like that. I don't know.
You feel like you're the second spouse.
Yeah. Like, well, we ran out of ways to make money on iOS, so here we'll go on Android. It's like all those iOS developers who trashed Android and about how horrible it was, and now they're trying to peddle their same crappy apps on Android because they're well dried up on iOS.
Yeah, because I mean the growth rate is like astronomical on Android.
Well, it's easier to find stuff anyway.
The big thing is people talk about people make more money on Apple on iOS, but the problem is it's because the better apps are just now starting to come to Android, and then there's the whole lawsuits that are happening because the App Store and in-app purchases allowing kids to just rack up lots of money to the detriment of their parents.
Right. I could see that happening too. Finally, if you have an LG GWatch and you want a spare charger to keep at your office because the charger is small and hard to find and scarce, now you can get another one for $20 from GooglePlay.
Which, as a person waiting for the 360, makes me hope that it'll be the same way if you want to get wireless chargers and things like that. They'll have accessories on GooglePlay as well.
Yeah, I looked. They don't have one for the Gear Live yet. If it was $20, I was going to grab one.
Of course not, because Samsung wants to make sure they get as much money from you as possible.
It's true.
I mean, there's a reason why it's hard to find an actual Samsung Note 3 charger.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. You probably can't, other than from Samsung, right?
I mean,
it's got that USB 3 plug.
Yeah, which the micro USB 3.0 that almost nobody carries. I think I saw something that looked similar to it on Monoprice the other day, but I'm kind of questioning whether I should buy something that important for my phone.
Good point.
Although we won't have to worry if they get the new. I think micro USB 3.0 Type C is the one that looks kind of like the Lightning charger.
Yeah, it's double-sided.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we need.
Yeah. Although if we don't really need any of that if they just go ahead and put wireless charging and everything. Because if you need to connect to a device, you don't need a cable anymore. Just use Bluetooth.
That's right. Bring it.
Or NFC.
Bring it. All right, so we had some movement in the wireless industry this week. I guess first I should say that Sprint is no longer trying to buy T-Mobile.
And everywhere out there, T-Mobile users are breathing a sigh of relief.
I was going to say, as a T-Mobile user, I am ecstatic because I did not want Sprint screwing with what T-Mobile's doing. So we'll see how that works out for both of them. I mean, I think T-Mobile is really on an upswing. It was just announced earlier on Twitter that they're now the largest prepaid carrier in the U.S. over all three of the major carriers, which is pretty impressive.
But part of that's because they don't treat their prepaids as second-class citizens.
No, I had a very good experience on T-Mobile as a prepaid. Actually, it was probably better as prepaid than it was.
He's like, well, now that you mention it.
Yeah.
But I guess what we should tell people is pay no attention to that disturbance in the force.
That's right. Along with that, Sprint's CEO as of yesterday, Dan Hesse, or Hess, I don't remember how you say his name.
I think it's Hesse.
Hesse. He is being replaced by a guy, and I'm not going to try and say the guy's name because I will butcher it.
Marcelo, I think it's Clary.
Okay. You win.
Last name I have no idea, but it's definitely Marcelo.
Yeah, so I don't think Dan Hesse did anything particularly wrong. I think maybe he chased WiMAX a little too long and got him behind on the technology piece of it.
With Clear. Yeah.
But I mean, he's fine. He's getting like a $40 million golden parachute. So if my employer wants to give me a $40 million check to go away, I will happily do that.
Of course, I'm also happy. As a person who has family who's on Sprint, I'm happy to see his ass go because he was also a big proponent of Sprint being one of the only carriers in the U.S. that even after they agreed with the FCC has refused to unlock like Apple devices and other SIM-unlocked devices. And basically, that even though they've agreed to do it, they basically said, well, we're not going to do anything until the date that it says by this date we'll do it. Anything sold before that date, they're refusing to do it. So like all these people with 4Ss, so too bad. Although at least Congress got involved and now made it no longer illegal to do it yourself.
Yeah, it's still silly. If you fulfilled your contract, there's no reason they shouldn't unlock your device.
Especially when it's a device that's clearly made to work for any carrier if it's unlocked.
Yep. Exactly.
I mean, with Sprint technical services trying to people, no, it's a special phone.
Yeah.
No, that was the iPhone 4.
I don't know about you or any of our listeners, but normally when somebody tells me they're on Sprint, I'm like, oh, really? Why? And I used to have that same thought when somebody told me they were on T-Mobile. And now I'm on T-Mobile, but having been on Sprint, I'm just like, really? I mean, everywhere I go, Sprint is awful. I've had Sprint, I've had their hotspots, their phones. I was on their carrier for a long time. And I know probably in some areas they're really good.
I think that's the thing but the problem is them, almost like T-Mobile was before their build out, their areas where they were really good were few and far between. You had to be basically from Kansas, because they're in Overland Park, down into Texas, and kind of some areas towards like the southwest parts of Louisiana, and then a few other markets. Everywhere else, they were pretty terrible, especially if you got down to their 3G. I mean, I know just in Baton Rouge, I was getting better speeds on an old 50 6K modem than I was getting for 3G here.
Wow.
I mean, we were getting down to like 52 kilobits a second. I mean, it was creepy. I mean, you have signal everywhere. I know, like, my family that lives back where I'm from in Southwest Louisiana, there the system is set up pretty good, but that's not because of Sprint. It's because of the local regional carrier they bought out. And for years, that was the only place my sister and them had it out in the rural parts. Sprint was the only carrier, although now Verizon has it because they bought up a local regional, a former cellular carrier, and so they have pretty much coverage down there too. But there's no real incentive to go to Verizon now since there's no unlimited.
Good old Sprint. Ugh. All right, people, we're on Google+. We are google.com/plus the Simulcast. We are on Twitter @the Simulcast. You could email us like our friend Jim in the UK, podcast@thesimulcast.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 203-903-CAST. And if you can't get enough of me, or if you've had enough of me, either one, I made an appearance on the Tech Talk podcast on Monday evening, so you can go to their website and grab that show. We were talking about the OnePlus One and quite a few other topics. So make sure you check those guys out. It's our buddy Clay, Donnie, Brian, Todd, and Sam. I think I got everybody. There's a lot of people on that show. It was like 2 hours of podcast. So we have a listener email. And Patrick, you're going to read it.
Yeah, okay. Hi, guys. Still love the podcast. Keep up the good work. Bill, you talked about PushBullet. Can you delve a little more into what you use it for? It has piqued my interest. Cheers, Jim in the UK.
Well, PushBullet is an app with an extension for Chrome as well, and it does a few things. It allows you to send links, text, files, stuff like that between devices, between your desktop and your mobile device or your tablet. You can send stuff to friends. It's not quite like an instant messenger. It's more for sending. I use it for sending files to my friends, or maybe a news article to my wife, something like that. It also allows you to have notifications appear on your desktop. So if you're like me and you're in front of a computer most of the day and you want your notifications to go directly to your computer and be able to dismiss them on your phone and all that kind of stuff, PushBullet can do that. So that's basically what I use it for. Sometimes if I'm sitting at my computer and I see an article I want to read, and maybe I'm going somewhere and I know I'm going to have a few minutes, I'll just use PushBullet to push it to my phone. Is that how you use it as well, Patrick?
Pretty much. I mean, it is nice that I like the fact that I can kind of pick up if I'm doing something on the computer or something I'm going to leave, I can push it that way, or this way I don't have to re-enter stuff and do all the old gimmicky ways where there used to be the one where you take I think there was a plugin at one point, you take a picture of what your screen is and then it would sync up and show up on your phone. To me, it just works. The big thing I'm looking forward to is that OS 10 support is coming soon.
Yeah, they've already integrated it into Windows 8. So in your right-click menu, if there's a picture or something you want to send, right-click, PushBullet, send to, and you can send it right from there. You don't have to attach it to an email. You don't have to drag it somewhere. Right-click and send. Nice and simple. The developers are really responsive. And so far, it's been a really useful tool. I pretty much use it every day now. Say for instance, also, on Wednesdays we have Update Wednesday. Google updates
something
on
on
apps.
Drive, and then go back and download it on the device from the web thing. That it just click, boom, done.
Yeah. I send the link, and boom, there it is. So it's free. I mean, there's absolutely no reason you shouldn't give it a try. And Jim, let us know what you think if you try it out and you find some use for it. It's really as as useful or as useless as you make it. If you're not using it a whole lot, you probably won't find much value. But once you start using it, I think you'll find that it's pretty invaluable. All right, so I guess we'll move on to the casting couch. I didn't have a whole lot of time for shows this week, but what I did watch, I didn't get to watch any movies. My daughter watched the Muppets. What's the new Muppets thing?
Asking the wrong person.
I figured you would know because you like all those Lego movies. Well, hold on. Let me look in Showbox and I can tell you which Muppets my daughter watched.
Last watched.
Muppets Most Wanted.
Huh.
So I kind of sort of watched that without really admitting to it. I also watched America's Got Talent. Howard Stern's still on there as a judge, and I enjoy watching Howard. And Heidi Klum's on there, so I mean, it's something that my whole family watches.
So how was the Muppets?
It was pretty funny.
See, my problem was, and I wish I could find this old picture. You know how the thing I love about Android now is when you take pictures, it syncs and saves those pictures regardless of which phone you took it on. I remember at one time I went to one of the local. Let's see, what was the one that closed? Office Max. As I was going through the checkout, you've seen the movie Malibu's Most Wanted, correct?
Yep.
Okay. You remember how he says, "I got Gamecast," and he's like, "It's either GameCube, PlayStation, or GameCube." And he's like, "I got Gamecast."
Yeah.
And so he's sitting there, boom, Gamecast. It's like one of those cheap things that you plug in as pre-built within games. And it took a picture and said, "Haha, I found it."
Wow.
Man, I wish I could find that picture now. I was telling somebody the other story about that. They're like, "No," I was like, "Yeah." So never underestimate what you will find in the checkout line.
And I also watch Street Outlaws. I watch a bunch of car shows, and I realize some of the tech people don't care about that stuff. But I happen to, and it was the season finale last, it was on Monday. I actually watched it yesterday, but lots of racing, lots of crashing. It's good times. How about you, Patrick?
Pretty much the only thing I went and watched was Guardians of the Galaxy, and all I can say is go watch it.
You need to sell me on this. What's it about?
I'm trying to think how I can do it without really kind of giving any kind of spoilers whatsoever. Think about it this: it's don't think about what you've already seen in the Marvel universe.
I've seen nothing.
Seriously?
Yeah, I mean, is it like a superhero movie?
Yes, it basically they exist within the Marvel universe. They're aliens that have different things, and they're basically supposed to fight evil.
Okay. All right. I didn't even know what the premise was.
But they're like the anti-hero type things. A lot of people think they're assholes and prima donnas and things like that. But because one guy, I mean, you have to see it. I mean, one of the coolest things has got to be the Rocket the Raccoon. But I mean, if you look at some of the people who are in it, my favorite quote had to be someone posted on Twitter. They said, "Marvel did something that WWE has tried in over 15 years and failed. Make people like and respect David Batista." And then, I mean, most people don't realize Groot, the big tree-looking dude, that's actually Vin Diesel. So I mean, they got a pretty good cast. I mean, Marvel keeps hitting things out the park. The only thing that I would say that they kind of on was probably Iron Man 3. It's my least favorite of any of their movies they put out so far.
Yeah, and I hated that because I really like Iron Man, but man, there was so much going on in that movie.
Yeah, someone basically put it pretty well the other day. They said it almost seems like they were trying to find a way to give closure to Tony so they can move on. Or at least to Robert Downey Jr. so they can move on to someone else.
Yeah, I could see that.
But my favorite was someone retweeted someone else was posting like every movie that's coming out pretty soon over the next couple years. And it's pretty impressive, the list that's coming out. Although I wanted to kind of pick on them, but of course with Twitter you can only put so many characters. They had Fantastic Four 2, I was going to say, I think that's already been shot. I think this is the reboot, which would be 3.
Wow.
which conveniently is has been filming for like the last couple of months down here in Baton Rouge.
Right.
Actually, one of our downtown buildings for about a week or two, it was renamed the Baxter Building.
Hmm. All right, so picks of the week this week. I have kind of a cool one. It's an app for Android called Unclouded, and it is kind of a it's a really nice material design style app. What it does is it allows you to hook into your Dropbox and your Google Drive at the same time. The premium version lets you find duplicates and get rid of those or combine those. But you can also upload and email stuff directly from the app, so you don't have to really remember which cloud service you have it stored in. And I linked it in the show notes. It's probably worth checking out. The free version is nice, but doesn't do quite as much. It's $1.99 in-app purchase. And props to the developer. I was trying to buy it with my family account, the one that I use for all the app purchases now.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, it won't let me select a different account. And so I emailed the developer right before we went live, and I already got a response from him that he was looking into it.
Nice.
Yeah, so he may not be able to fix it right away, but at least, and it's only $2. I still have a credit on my other account, but I wanted to be able to buy it on my family account so I could install it on any of our devices.
Nice.
Yep. So check that guy out. His name is Christian, and it's only $2. It's a really pretty app, though.
And I guess your second pick would be essentially reminding people to check out PushBullet.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm not going to put that there because I catch shit every time I do put PushBullet on there. So there's that, Patrick.
I figure it will probably make its way back up there as soon as OS X support comes out, because it'll remind you, PushBullet.
Yeah.
Mine. One of the things I'd been kind of looking for, because I used to use it all the time on my iPad for iOS, was they had an app called Pocket Dictate, which was a really good free little dictation app, which was great because you could record something and you could actually pre-program an email to send it to like a secretary or whoever, and you could record it in WAV format, and they could drop it into Dragon Speak, whatever. Well, I was kind of trying to look for something that was good to use on Android and came across it's called Dictadroid. It's a good dictation app, but it can also be a good voice recorder app, like if a student taking notes, like recording the lecture notes in class. Because what's good about it is it records in WAV format, and there's a free version which I think has some limitations like on time and everything, but the full version is only $2.99. But what's cool is it saves it in Word format, and you can have it set to automatically, once you save it, you can have it automatically save it and forward it to an email. You can have it forward to Google Drive, forward to Dropbox. So, like, let's say you basically the person, like a college student recording lecture notes, you can do that and then have like a shared Dropbox or Google Drive folder where, boom, latest lecture notes are put up. And one of the things I've showed people where you can use this is with OneNote. You can actually take this WAV file, drop it into your notes that you're taking in OneNote, and have everything in one place. And so it's a good little cheap app. It can be used for professionals if you need to do like real dictation, but it's also a great little note app for recording like lectures or anything else, and then just having it automatically upload it to whatever you want, either email, Dropbox, or Google Drive.
Very nice.
And it's the WAV format set so that you can drop it into like Dragon Speakeasy and stuff like that, the dictation software, and so it'll do it really easy.
Oh, sweet. All right, Patrick, tell everybody where they can find you when we're not on the podcast.
Well, you can find me on Twitter, handle LSU Law 2009. You can find me on Google+. Easiest way is go plus.technicallylegal.net to find all my other social media contacts. And, of course, you can always email me at patrick@thesimulcast.com.
All right, and I am Bill Stebbins. I'm at Bill Stebbins on Twitter, google.com/+BillStebbins for all my other social media information. And that's going to do it for Simulcast 240 for Wednesday, August the 6th. I believe we'll be back next week. Shoot us an email or tweet at us if you have any comments or questions. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys later. Good night.
Later, guys.